and welcome back to another episode of Extra Blue. It was so fun to see everyone last week in Lake Placid at World Cup Finals, and for those of you who attended in person, thank you so much for braving the snow, the rain, the cold. Your cheering and support had such an impact on our racing, and it was really fun to race in front of a home crowd. It really makes such a difference. And personally, I actually had one of my best classic 10K races on the World Cup, despite super challenging conditions that day. And these conditions were also unfavorable to my style of racing. So I was just really proud of that race for me and really excited to be racing in front of the home crowd. I definitely pushed myself to the limit on Friday's race and kind of paid the price for it with some pretty tired legs on Saturday for the skate sprint. But we brought it home with an epic 20K on Sunday, and I was really trying to win most smiles on course. I'm told I may have had some tough competition and placed second behind Jessie, which is an honorable placement in my mind. So I was really happy with the weekend, and it was just really fun to be there with all of you. And if you were not able to make it in person, then hopefully you tuned in from a cozy, warm, and dry space. And also, we'd love to have you next time. Hopefully there is a next time coming very soon. So stand by, but I think that we'll be getting to have more World Cups in the US more often. I know that the athletes from overseas really enjoy it, and so we're hoping to get more of that soon. I'm really proud to be supported by Gear West, not just because they support athletes like me, but because they show up for the entire Nordic community. From helping kids learn to ski, to supporting high school and adult racers, to backing and participating in iconic events like the American Birkebeiner and so many local races, Gear West invests in what makes the Midwest Nordic ski community special. If you have goals on snow this season, whether it's your first race or a personal best, Gear West has the knowledge, gear, and support to help you get there. Stop by the campus in Long Lake, just a few minutes past Ridgedale. Today's episode is all about teamwork and communication at the highest level and what it takes to chase excellence together. My guest is Jake Adicoff, a U.S. Paralympic cross-country skier and one of the most dominant athletes in the sport today. Jake is visually impaired and competes alongside his guides, Reid Goble and Peter Wolter. These are two elite skiers who help him navigate the course at race speed, communicating constantly and working in total sync. Together, this team just delivered an extraordinary performance at the 2026 Winter Paralympic Games in Milano Cortina. Jake came in with a very bold goal to win 4 gold medals. And over the course of the week, that's exactly what he did. It was a defining moment in his career and a testament not just to his talent, but to the trust, communication, and connection between all three of them. Jake's journey to this point has been years in the making, from growing up skiing in Sun Valley, to competing at Bowdoin College, to finding his path in Paralympic sport and building a world-class partnership with his guides. In this episode, we talk about that journey, what it's really like to race as a team, the highs and the challenges of the Paralympic stage, and the deeper meaning behind Jake's experience as an openly gay athlete competing at the highest level. Jake, Reid, and Peter, welcome to the podcast. Okay, today on the Extra Blue podcast, we have 4-time Paralympian Jake Adicoff, and he is here with his 5 Olympic gold medals and 3 silver medals. He's also dragged in his 2 guides, Peter Wolter and Reid Goble. So Jake, Peter, Reid, thank you all for being here on the podcast. And I just want to check in and ask, how are things going and where are you currently today?
Yeah, thanks, Elena. Wow, how are things going? I'm just barely starting to recover, I think, from time in Italy and then time cheering Reid and company on at the World Cup in Lake Placid last week. and right now we're all in Craftsbury, gearing up for Super Tour finals coming up this
Yeah.
weekend, starting tomorrow actually.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. I saw you all in Lake Placid last weekend, and you all seemed a little bit bonked. But
Yeah, strung out perhaps.
yeah. Peter and Reid, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. It's nice to be back in Craftsbury. I love this place, and I would concur on the a little bit tired. I think all of us that are racing, all of us on this podcast, and everybody here is a little bit fried. But I think it's kind of fun to all be in the same boat. Everybody's fired up for the final three races of the year, and yeah, the come down from the Paralympics is real for sure. But I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I mean, similar story. Also, a lot of travel and coming back, and there's a come down, but like I couldn't imagine a better place to go than like go watch World Cup finals. Still just like kind of riding a bit of a high, and it's really exciting. And then, now we're in Craftsbury at Super Tour finals and still having fun, seeing all the friends, seeing all the people. And so it's really, I think, the best thing to do after something like super fun like the Paralympics. And so I'm excited for kind of the last few weeks and the week to come. So yeah.
Nice. Well, you three have had kind of an insane month with all of the competitions over in Italy, and that's kind of on top of the season you've already had. And we're definitely going to break that down today in terms of all of the racing. But before we dive into the racing right now, Jake, I want to ask you to kind of take us back to where it all started. You grew up in Sun Valley, Idaho, and you have been visually impaired since birth. What
Hmm.
did sport look like for you growing up?
Yeah, I started skiing in second grade. My parents put me in the alpine and cross country programs, and I mean, like age 7, that's basically where my memory starts. So I've been, kind of skiing as long as I can remember. Um, so sport has always been like a big part of my life, and especially in the last 5 years, skiing has been my life, which has been very cool. But yeah, I think like as long as I can remember, I've been, an avid skier. I've been in love with this silly little thing that we're doing. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's all. That's what I have.
So, can you explain to the audience, being visually impaired and competing in sport, what does that look like at the young age and throughout then like junior high and high school too?
Yeah. For me, it was kind of a unique experience, I think. I think I was, yeah, so I was, like you said, born visually impaired, which is a kind of a leg up over a lot of other people with similar impairments. Pretty well adapted to it. And I think my parents kind of recognized that from very early on, and put me in a lot of sport programs, kind of assuming that I could just kind of hang. And that was definitely true in Nordic skiing more than it was in like baseball, where I struggled. But yeah, I skied against like or with and against able-bodied skiers all throughout my life until I was 18 years old. So I think I had a fairly like what we would call like normal ski progression through development in high school. I had junior nationals goals and achieved some of those, missed some of them too. But I didn't start like para skiing until after high school, in a post grad year. And yeah, I definitely like did recognize differences in my skiing versus others. But I don't think that, or I guess I recognize those now, but I don't think I was like super in tune with those when I was growing up. And to me, it all felt like kind of a level playing field, which I think was very helpful in my skiing development.
Yeah. So you felt like you were still on the same playing field as everyone else,
Mhm.
because you were competing against, non-visually impaired athletes, and you did not have a guide at this point, through junior high and high school. Then in that PG year, you went to um, competing as more of a Paralympian and with a guide. So what was that first transition like for you?
It was really hard. You have to start kind of surrendering a bit of your own autonomy in races. I think I'm a pretty stubborn person. I think that Reid and Peter could probably back that up. um, but it's you definitely like, yeah, you give up a little control, and there are like huge upsides once you start doing that. But learning how to do that and learning how to do that when I was 18, that was a steep curve for sure. But it was very cool and a good like learning experience.
Yeah. Well, we are going to dive into a little bit more of the kind of communication and trust styles that you have to have for guiding and working together as a team. But before we do that, I also want to ask, so you went from high school to then you had this PG year where you were skiing with a guide, and then you went on to ski for Bowdoin College as well. So what was it like kind of doing that flip-flop back and forth, and how did skiing for you at Bowdoin kind of unfold?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I knew that I wanted to ski in college. And I, again, like really, uh, I knew that that was going to be like, able-bodied skiing, and that was fine with me. And it was another like very important part of my ski development. I think the three of us, you, Peter, and I, can all agree that like skiing in the East in college is like maybe one of the most fun, you know, 4 years of ski racing that you can ever do. And yeah, I think that yeah, it was definitely like a transition coming back after the Paralympics to Bowdoin and kind of putting my para skiing to the side for a few years. But it was definitely like the right pipeline for me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that the Paralympics don't get nearly as much viewership as the Olympics. And so, one, I want to talk about how can we change that? And two, I also want to just kind of give listeners more of a background of, for those who don't follow the Paralympics as much and who we can kind of get to hop on the bandwagon, can you give a brief background on what is the Paralympics? Who's competing? When do they compete? How many categories are there for skiing?
Yeah, the Paralympics, they first the etymology, it's like the parallel Olympics. It's for disabled athletes, and in the skiing category at least, we're talking about uh, three major categories of disability. There are sitting skiers, and that's generally like amputees or spinal cord injuries, people that are in sit skis. Then there's a category of standing skiers. Generally, that's single leg amputations or arm amputations, neurological issues that cause paralyzed arms, paralyzed limbs. Um, And then there's a visually impaired category, which I compete in. And so all three of these are separated out. There are medals in each category. Um, and then within each category, there are classes. And so the way that cross country skiing works, and alpine skiing also, is depending on how disabled you are. You get a factor time. So, for instance, in the visually impaired category, there are three classes: NS1, 2, and 3. I'm a part of the NS3 class, and it's the class with the least impairment. And then NS1 would be like a fully blind skier. And in VI skiing, NS3s get 100% of their race time, but NS1s get 88%. So they have a time advantage, but a ability disadvantage. And in theory, the math works out so that you are competing on a fair playing field. Yeah.
That's super helpful to kind of, I think, have it broken down like that. And I think one maybe example to, I guess, visualize this is in the sprint race that just happened in Val di Fiemme at the Paralympics. There was a final heat, right? And one athlete went off, I don't know how many seconds it was ahead of you, but it was probably like 8 to 10 seconds ahead of you. And then was it the next 5 all went together? Was that accurate?
Close.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a 19 or 20, I think it was a 19-second head start.
Okay.
And that's all based off of the qualifier.
Okay.
So sprints are kind of unique. You get based on the qualifier, there is a set time for the rest of the day for the semifinals and finals, that the lower classes, start ahead of you, or start ahead of me. So yeah, in that final, you saw the Swedish skier Sebastian Modin. He started 19 seconds ahead of us. And then in VI sprints, because there are 4 guides and 4 athletes, 8 people on course, there aren't 6. There's no room to have 6 people. So it's just 4-person heats, or 14 heats, I guess.
And then no lucky loser.
Yeah.
Just 2
and no lucky loser. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, it is. It is kept simple for sure. But yeah. So the next, 3 people, we went 20 seconds later and had to play a bit of chase in the final.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, it's super great to watch you compete with Peter and Reid, kind of, I would say, by your side. They're a few feet in front of you, but I'm curious. Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
How did you first connect with Peter and Reid, and what kind of makes those relationships work or partnerships work?
Yeah. Peter and I have known each other for a long time. He also grew up in Sun Valley. So yeah, I knew him, from the time that he started skiing on the like high school team in Sun Valley. And then, we overlapped for a year in college, did some summer training group stuff together in Sun Valley. We've kind of been in each other's skiing orbits for a long time, and then we both joined the gold team at the same time in 2021, and kind of have become very good friends since then. Peter's probably the person. Peter is 100% the person that I've spent the most time with in the last 4 years, and
blessed.
Yeah, and hashtag blessed for that. Yeah, and I think after Sam Woods stopped skiing in 2022, I was looking for guides, and Peter was, thinking about skiing, thinking about retiring, ended up, committing to skiing, and then it became quite an obvious choice to have him start guiding. I think it's just for me, the number one criteria for guides is people that you can spend a lot of time with and never get tired of. And so then Reid flies in the face of that.
He got tired of Peter.
He got tired of Peter and started looking around.
I needed a guide for World Cup finals 3 years ago in Prince George, Canada. And some calls were made to the BSF pro team, and Reid was pretty gung-ho about coming up. And so we got kind of set up on that trip, and Yeah, it was a ton of fun. It's a terrible little place up in British Columbia, but we made the most of it. Had some good races, and it just seemed like a very good fit. And so when we were planning, when coaches and I were planning for Italy a couple years ago, we had always kind of thought that having a couple guides come as, like a bit of an insurance policy, like in case someone gets sick, was a really good idea. And Peter and Reid were, the two that fit the bill the best.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, it sounds like maybe you've had now the most experience or just more years of it. Can you explain to us like the technicalities around guiding and how much of guiding is physical versus communication and trust?
Yeah. I think, because Jake is in the least visually impaired category, my, Reid and I's role as a guide is not as intense as it is for somebody who is fully visually impaired. So that sort of, in a way, makes our job easier. What makes our job a little bit harder is that Jake is an insanely fast skier. So, like, we have to be really dialed and we need to be on the fastest possible skis that we have. But I think the way that we serve Jake best as a guide is just skiing smoothly, skiing predictably, and being able to spend enough time with him, both in training and in racing, builds the trust between the two of us to understand how each of us kind of want to attack a course. It's definitely a very interesting dynamic to go from racing for yourself to racing with Jake, just because, in scenarios maybe where I would push, Jake maybe doesn't push as much, but then there's scenarios where Jake is pushing more than I would push in my own race. So trying to find some balance where we can kind of push on every aspect of the course and work together is a totally different dynamic. And it's more of like in some ways, sometimes more of a mental challenge than I ever expected it to be. But overall, I think, like Jake mentioned, with college skiing, like I think college skiing was the last opportunity that all of us had an opportunity to compete as a team until I got introduced into the guiding side of things. And it totally turns this completely individual sport into a team sport in a lot of ways. And guiding has been super, super fun. And the communication is honestly pretty minimal between us and while we race. It's go faster, slow down, and that's about it. Which is nice. Like, we've spent enough time to understand how each other operate, and we can race pretty tightly without too much communication.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, actually, the races where we communicate the least are the best.
Okay.
They're just like on the same page, kind of, about where to put in effort on a course, where to let up a little bit. Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we're talking less, then things are going smoothly.
Yeah, if
Nice.
anything, I feel like there's a lot of almost body language going on there. I'm like kind of hearing Jake. Like, is he right behind me over the top of this hill? Can I keep pushing harder? Is he like, did I make a little bit of a gap? Do I need to let him catch up a little bit? Hearing his breathing. Jake seeing, am I feeling good? Like, does he need to tell me to speed it up? Does he need to tell me to slow it down if I'm like too high of a tempo? That kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of just unspoken things that go
Yeah.
on that we adapt to.
Yeah. How much of it do you talk about before the race? Is there a race plan where there's tactics or strategies going into it? Or do you kind of just rely on that constant mid-race communication?
There's always a plan. Yeah, we do a lot of talking about like how we think races should go. Peter and Reid are also I mean, you guys have done a lot of racing, so pretty valuable just to like share ideas about tactics and all of that. And it just depends on the day whether that plan is going to work or not, or if we need to kind of adjust mid-race. It's a lot different than able-bodied skiing. There's just a lot that can happen out on course to kind of change your day. And yeah, being flexible is really important, but planning is also really, really key.
Yeah. In a broader sense too, we like in the last 3 seasons of guiding, like I know how Jake wants to warm up every race. Basically, I know how Jake likes to race races, and so we've like that's the reason we've done so much guiding, before the Paralympics, and it was all kind of leading up to the Paralympics was the ultimate goal. And so, like for example, Peter did the sprint and I did the relay. For the last 3 seasons, we've really tried to like make sure Peter does every sprint race with Jake and really dials it in, and I do the relay so that we can target those and then do the best possible for Jake. So
yeah, good practice. Well, Reid, you had mentioned how you kind of a few years ago were a last minute call to go to World Cup finals, and so you had to kind of quickly learn the ropes and also build that trust with Jake, especially at race speed. So how do you build that trust?
Yeah, I think probably when we were in Prince George 3 seasons ago, it was a little more of like asking some more questions before we started racing, like how do you want to do this? And it was good to do that at the end of the season, and I had like a little more of like a trial error, where it's like probably the first race, there's times I was going too fast or too slow, but really like I said before, just getting those reps in basically was super important, and like there needed to be a little less communication probably towards like the Paralympics, and so yeah, and like Peter, Jake, and we all get along really well. We have a ton of fun, and so that takes a lot of pressure, and just like we're all really good friends and we joke around a lot, and so it's pretty easy hanging out with each other and skiing. So
yeah.
Peter, anything to add about building trust with Jake?
No, I don't think I have much else to add there.
Just time together.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you'd also mentioned, Reid, you did the relay, Peter, you did the sprint, but then there's also there was a 10K and a 20K. So how do you determine who's guiding for Jake in those races?
Yeah, I kind of came up with that plan a while ago. I thought that winning the 2 distance races at the games was going to be the easiest, or those would be the easiest 2 races for me. So I wanted to, give each of them a shot at a gold medal. And I think over long distances, Peter's quite a bit easier to skate behind than Reid, and I think that Reid's pretty solid in a classic race, pretty easy to ski behind in that. So yeah, it kind of just came out of that.
And it worked well with the order as well. Like Peter and I were both fresh on the 2 races that we raced.
Yeah, that's great. Just Jake is maybe a little tired.
Yeah. Well, he was seeming pretty good.
Only a little bit.
He was
By the
fine.
20K, he was getting a little more tired, but he was pretty fresh as well.
Yeah, that's so impressive. Well, Jake, I want to dive into also then like your experience at previous Paralympic Games, because this was your 4th or 5th?
Mm-hmm.
4th? Yeah. Okay. So what did you learn from your previous experiences that you could then apply to these games?
Oh boy. I think the games that I learned the most from was also the one that I liked the least. It was China.
Okay.
It was really quite a stressful week. I think like anyone that went to Beijing would agree, with just COVID restrictions and the general vibe, I would say, was like just maximum stress. And I think I was not really able to stay calm through all of that. and ended up I think underperforming my ability, because of just my complete lack of chill the entire week. So coming out of that, I had a lot of conversations just with coaches and Sam Wood and sports psychs from the USOPC, and it was a few years of work that went into figuring out how to have more fun, essentially, which is kind of what it boiled down to. Have a guarantee that I would have a better time in Italy, because I think that's kind of what I missed out on in China.
Yeah.
So that was a big learning experience. I think there were others, but I would say more minor, more kind of more discreet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big takeaway was more chill. And so you pulled in Peter and Reid for that.
Yeah. I mean, Sam's great for that. Sam is great for that too.
Nah, Sam's got no chill.
Sam's got no chill.
chill.
And I will be sending him this clip.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and I guess I'll add that Italy was still high pressure. I think especially for Jake, I felt it as well. But the whole time, I think we were also having a lot of fun. So I think Jake nailed that at Italy.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, Reid, that you bring that up then, because it's somewhat, I wouldn't say obvious, but it kind of makes sense for Jake to feel the stress and the pressure, because at the end of the day, it's kind of his moment, but you're there also as the guide and the support system. And so I'm assuming, must feel that pressure too. So how does that pressure feel? It's not necessarily your individual result, but you still feel a lot of that. What is that kind of like?
Yeah, I think in some ways the guiding, and especially in that high pressure environment, such as the Paralympics, the ultimate stage, there's some pressure off me, where it's I don't have to prove myself, I'm here as a little bit of a role player for Jake, but at the same time, it adds more pressure of okay, I really don't want to screw up, or I'd be such a bummer to get sick and, stress Jake out about that. And so I felt that pressure, and just more pressure toward I didn't want to be a limiting factor for Jake. That's where I felt the pressure, and I don't know if Peter has anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's the pressure that I felt is the same pressure you feel at anytime you do a relay, because you have people relying on you to perform at your best, and if you don't, then it hurts them too. But I will say, between sprint rounds and the sprint race, I was up there at the most nervous I've ever been for any sort of racing. So there's something to be said for having some of the spotlight off of you and the pressure off of you, but at the same time, it was full blown nerves going on. No doubt about that.
Yeah. I felt that on the sidelines, and I also felt it in the relay.
That sounds really stressful. Jake, speaking of pressure, so you've talked about having kind of come into these games saying you wanted 4 gold medals, and that does add some pressure. So when did that goal start to feel real?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I've been saying that to coaches for the past 4 years, that I wanted to win every race in Italy. And then I was maybe a bit more public with that goal than I should have been to some media kind of in the last year. But yeah, I felt quite committed to that. And I think in my mind going into that week, the classic sprint was going to be the hardest race to win. And I think the most doubt I felt the entire week was right after the classic sprint qualifier. I was really hoping to just go out and smash it, and just ride a wave of confidence for the rest of the day. Instead, I was, some kind of messy skiing, not really figuring out the course super well, and we were a few seconds down on the qualifier, and I was incredibly nervous that day. But a very fast turnaround after the classic sprint, after the win. Yeah, it all felt real. It all felt super possible, and like within reach, which was that was the biggest like 2-hour turnaround I've ever had. Attitude wise towards a goal. It was kind of wild.
Yeah. So what did you do in that 2 hours? Like, what happened?
We looked at some video. We figured out, some definite like weak spots in where like Peter and I were skiing. And yeah, I don't know. I did a lot of deep breathing, to kind of calm down, and a lot of, yeah, try to practice a lot of gratitude towards ski racing as a whole, to try and calm down, and
Yeah.
that helped quite a bit, and I think
Yeah.
like unlocked some much better skiing, some of the best classic skiing that I have ever done in the final.
For sure.
Counts.
Yeah.
That race, we definitely had a number of mistakes in the qualifier. And then we, as Jake said, we analyzed them. We got some video. But then in pair racing, they just go straight to semis and then to finals. So there's no quarterfinal. But so in the semis, we brushed out some of the mistakes, but not everything. And then once the final came around, we put every single piece of the puzzle together and had a pretty darn near perfect race. Jake, I must call out, also had the most insane kick over the top of the hill that I've ever seen him have. And that's really what made us kind of lock in that gold coming down the hill. And it was like one of the most well executed, problem solution days in ski racing I've ever had. And of course, like getting the gold was extremely gratifying in that regard, but just being able to execute a plan so perfectly, like I will never forget that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
it was
cool.
pretty electric to watch as well.
That's so cool. Peter, what did it feel like then for you as the guide that day in the sprint, crossing the finish line, knowing that Jake got the gold? Well, you both got the gold, but Jake got the gold.
It was pretty overwhelming. I had high expectations for the week, both performance wise and then, of course, just like experience wise. But landing that gold medal kind of blew everything out of the water. And then, of course, completing the week and with another gold medal in the 20K, like I was kind of at a loss for what those emotions and feelings and like gratitude for both the sport, for Jake, for the team was almost unfathomable, and a emotion that was like hard to replicate with anything else.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like, just hearing you talk about that, I can understand even more now how tired you must feel just coming down from all of that emotion. Like whether it's a high or low emotion, emotions are also, they're draining of the energy levels. And so, yeah, I can only imagine how you felt like when you finally got back to the States and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was special.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I also want to talk about the relay a little bit, which Reid, you were the guide for. But specifically, I want to ask Jake, what does the mixed relay event look like with the various competitors, and how is it structured?
Yeah. So this is maybe a tricky one to explain. So ask questions if you have them. But in the relay, there are 4-person teams. It's a 4x2.5K relay. And the way the mixed relay works is there's a point threshold set at 335 points. And for everyone on your team, you add up individual factors and you have to be below 335 points. And you get further discounts for sit skiers and for women. So in theory, teams below this 335 point threshold should be skiing at roughly similar speeds over the 10K race. But there are, you get to choose like your order. It doesn't have to go like necessarily like man, woman. So there can be enormous time swings in this race. Mm-hmm. And it was true in Italy. I think Reid and I got the tag with something like a 40-second time deficit.
I think it's 48.
But 48-second time deficit. But we kind of knew that was like like very probable that's the position that we'd be in. So it still felt like a long time waiting for that tag, but we were, quite confident in the effort that the team had put in, and our own ability to ski fast. And yeah, it was definitely still extremely nerve-wracking. But yeah.
Yeah, there must be some sort of strategy then in terms of picking the order of the athletes, because like you mentioned, it could be various gender, it could be a sit skier or visually impaired. How do you go about picking that order then? Or how did you guys go about it this time around?
Yeah, I think, well, so our team was structurally very similar to what it was in Beijing when we won the same race. And that was all based off of a lot of math, a lot of like putting together theoretical teams and seeing, what their approximate time would be in that race. So a lot of that work was done, and then we were quite successful in China and essentially just went with the same strategy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I don't remember every bit of planning that went into the Beijing strategy, but yeah, it carried forward and got lucky and got another win.
Not lucky, you just deserved it. You skied fast.
Skied fast.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
Well, so you walked away with 4 Paralympic medals. How did you celebrate?
Oh man, how did we celebrate, boys? Well, okay, so first, and it was very nice. My parents stayed for a final night in Italy, which was great because, we were, I would say, pretty locked down. Doing a lot of mask wearing, not hanging out indoors with people that weren't in the bubble, that weren't in our bubble. So I really didn't get to spend a lot of time with the friends and family that were out there cheering. So we had a very nice time hanging out with them for a couple hours afterward, and then we went and danced until 3 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, the next day we went alpine skiing at the most beautiful alpine skiing you could imagine.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Next day we did Celeronda.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, Dolomiti super ski. That was truly one of the best days of like outdoor adventure that I've ever had. Yeah.
That's the best. That sounds like the best way to celebrate. I did the Celeronda a few years ago on Christmas Day, and it was just like the most outstanding day ever.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. For listeners who don't know, the Celeranda is where you can connect 4 alpine resorts in the Dolomites of northern Italy, and it's like $60 for the day pass or something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Unbelievably cheap, but it's like the most beautiful skiing ever. So that sounds like such a great celebration.
Yeah.
You also had a huge cheer squad, though, of friends and family that went out there. So did you even get to really hang out with them much, or it sounds like you were kind of locked down?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Would you like
no. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Jake was definitely the most locked down in the sense of like, he had 4 races. He had to show up every time. I got to, and Reed did too, like on the relay day. I just went into the stands with the
Mm.
USA fans. And it was awesome. I would
Yeah.
also have the same sentiment as Reed. Like I was stressed up there. Everybody's yelling and I'm dead silent as I watched this 48-second gap attempt to get closed, which thankfully they did. But
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was super special having so many people for Jake, for me, for Reed, of course, just for all of us, but like pretty impressive turnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really did feel the love
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I'll throw in after every time after the podium ceremony, you wear in the medals, you wear in the podium fit. Like the media people, we walk over and the whole USA squad is like standing there outside of the bleachers. And 4 times this happened. Everyone goes over there, we get a ton of pictures, everyone's congratulating, everyone's get to hold the medal. All of
Yeah.
us are putting on all 6 medals. And so, yeah, very fun environment. Everyone, that was the time when we got to really like see everyone and feel the love for sure. And yeah, lots of pictures. But
That's so
very
Yeah.
fun.
cool.
Peter's mom also made these incredible hats. They say "Go Jake, Peter, and
I
Reed."
have it. I have it
Oh,
right
They're
here.
they're
let's
so
see.
MAGA coded,
Oh my
but
God.
very
Oh, that's so
NASCAR.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could always see you know the USA contingent from those
Yeah.
hats. There's just
Oh,
a
good.
sea of them in the stands.
And Jake's
Yeah,
dad
she
had
made
huge,
55 of them.
That's
yeah.
so cool.
And Jake's dad had
Oh, yeah.
huge heads for all 3 of us. So
Oh,
there's
nice.
Peter, Jake, and Reed heads kind of floating around everywhere. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, so as I kind of mentioned, there isn't the same type of viewership for the Paralympics as there are for the Olympics. And yet it sounds like there was a really great turnout of fans for you all. So, Jake, I'm curious, over the 4 Paralympic experiences that you've had, do you feel like is that changing? Are we getting more of an audience there, or how could we, if we are, how could we make even more improvements?
Yeah, the games are getting bigger every time, and it's great to see. And I think that we just need to keep charging with the same path that we're on. Put Paralympians on podcasts, broadcast, talk about it, watch it. Honestly, just watching the Paralympics is going to be the thing that makes it grow the most.
Hmm.
So tell your friends.
I
Yeah.
think something that I was been thinking about a little bit is, full transparency. I hadn't watched much Paralympics before getting involved with Jake. But I think there's always like people are pushing watch the Paralympics, which, even watch the Olympics can be a daunting task. Like find somebody, even if it's one person, like some Paralympian that you're like interested in knowing about, like follow them on Instagram, follow their sport. Like, of course, it'd be great if you watched all the Paralympic sports, but like nobody's watching all the Olympic sports. Like,
Yeah.
pick your passion, pick your lane, and kind of go deep on that and understand one level of the sport. And if you want to pick another Paralympic sport to be into, go ahead and do that. But like, don't let it be overwhelming. Don't feel guilty for not watching all of the Paralympics. Like, find the one
Yeah,
that you want to watch.
Yeah. That's good advice. Everyone can go watch Jake now.
yeah,
Exactly.
I'll say that there should be a push to move it up a little further with the snow situation, and
Okay.
that's a little bit of a bigger, broader scope, but it's
Yeah.
definitely getting slushy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's a good call. Well, I have one more topic that I kind of want to talk to Jake about, if you're willing to share. Jake, you became the first openly gay male Winter Paralympic gold medalist, and you've spoken about representation and visibility to this and the importance of being an out athlete. So, what has that kind of meant to you personally at this stage of your career, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was a milestone that I didn't really know I was gonna break or like be the one to break. So that was pretty cool to read when I saw that headline. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when I'm thinking about like representation, I am mostly thinking about how like I didn't necessarily have like a blueprint when I was growing up. In skiing for being, for being a gay in athletics or a blind person in sport. So to kind of fill that spot for my past self, I think is quite cool. And I don't need to be an inspiration for, another young gay blind person out there. But if I am, like, that's amazing. And I really love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess to that, do you feel like there's a sense of responsibility of representing something bigger than yourself, or do you kind of just want to keep the focus on you and being Jake?
I think there's definitely a little bit of responsibility, but I think that like I also want to, be the most like, I don't want to like betray my own identity. I think the most important part for me is being genuine and being like me, I guess. And yeah, I think like to show some confidence, to show, yeah, I don't know, just to like be who you are.
Yeah,
That sounds so boring. I'm like
but it's not.
reverting to the most basic catchphrases, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm losing my train of thought here.
That's
I thought
fair.
it was great. Be
But I
who
feel
you
like,
are.
yeah,
Be who you
exactly.
are.
Believe in
And
yourself.
sometimes the most simple sounding phrase is actually the hardest to actually like to live and to bring to fruition. So I
Yeah.
think that actually is pretty huge.
Yeah.
Jake, is there something that you hope a younger athlete who maybe feels unsure where they belong, what could they take away from watching you compete?
Oh man. No matter, yeah, I think like, oh man, skiing sport has been, the number one joy of my life. And if you're up against adversity but still like love the sport, charge forward and keep doing it. And I guess that goes beyond sport too. If you find joy and passion in something, then chase it.
Perfect. Well, I just have a few final like rapid fire type questions for each of you. So I'll ask the question and then you each get to respond, and maybe we'll go Jake, Peter, Reid, because that's in order of how I'm seeing you on my screen. But Jake, one word to describe your Paralympics experience this year.
Oh, this is supposed to be rapid. Magic.
Peter?
Unforgettable.
Reid?
Surreal.
I love it. Okay. Jake, back to you. What was the favorite race of the week?
Classic sprint.
Peter?
Classic sprint.
Reid?
Relay.
Okay.
Honestly, classic sprint was
Jake?
pretty exciting though.
Yeah. Okay, so then what was the hardest moment of the week?
Mm, hardest moment of the week. Sleeping.
Mm. Yeah, that's fair, actually.
Regaining confidence in ourselves after the classic qualifier.
Uh-huh.
That one too. I'm gonna piggyback on that.
I think it was really fast the morning of the relay, and when it's fast, it's like uh, guiding can be more of an effort. And there was like we did some L3 pre-race before the relay, and I kind of had like a shared moment where I was like, wow, I gotta have to push really hard, but I ended up feeling great, so it was good. But that
Nice.
moment was scary for me.
Yeah. Okay, this last question, you guys can talk amongst yourselves. But what was the best moment as a team?
Oh man, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think what Reid talked about earlier, they definitely blend together now, but because there were 4 moments where we would all come after the podium ceremony, we would go through the media and then um, come into this like section where all of our friends and family and fans were, and every time, like, so many photos, so many hugs, like laughing. I mean, just so much gratitude going both directions. It was pretty special, and I think just kind of cherry on top for what was already a great day. Clearly, because we just walked away with a gold medal. So,
Hmm. Yeah. I think 2 of mine were they're so kind of dumb, I guess. But the first one, on the way to the 10K, I was just like, I had just taken a bicarb and I was extremely stressed and feeling so bad. And then Reed's just like chopping it up on the bus. We're laughing, and I'm just like kind of reminded that it's another ski race and it is fun. I do love it. And then I had one enormous bicarb burp and everything felt better.
And
And then the
I had it a
other,
few minutes later.
yeah,
Nice.
Reed got it a couple minutes later. And the other was, right after or on the podium of the fourth race, goal complete. Just getting, my first big deep breath of the week.
Yeah,
That was pretty fun and pretty nice.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Reid, do you have anything else?
Reid?
Yeah, I mean, like there's so many moments. I like the little moments we've had over the years. We're all on similar wavelengths with comedic style. I think there's a lot of bits. There's a lot of joking around. I wasn't racing on that sprint day, but the 2 hours between the quarterfinal or between the qualifier and the heats, I'm still seeing them. They're still, able to crack jokes, and it's high pressure, but we're still having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, with that, you've given me the chills, and I am so happy for all 3 of you, and definitely fangirling from the US during your races. So, uh, thank you so much for sharing your story on the podcast, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, just have this conversation and share your perspective on all of this. And I hope that you guys all have enough energy to get through one last weekend of ski racing for Super Tour finals here in Craftsbury. And I will see you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you, Elena.
Elena.
Thank you so much for having us, Elena.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Extra Blue, and thank you to Jake, Reid, and Peter for sharing your story with me. If you want to follow along with Jake's story, you can find him on Instagram at Jake Adicoff, spelled Adicoff. If you want to support the Paralympics, then follow along. Just as Jake said, all it takes is following one para-athlete's journey, and that in itself is investing in the Paralympics. Just like Olympic athletes, none of these athletes are waiting around for 4 years until the next cycle comes along. Para World Cups happen every season, world champs, all of it. So be sure to follow along next winter.